So here we are, a few months into 2017, and almost every other review channel has their best of 2016 lists already out. And look where that's got us. There's people running off to Canada, and our president is a glorified Cheeto. So it's my fault, I know, and I apologize. If only I had released my lists a few months ago, when everyone else was, then maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be happening. I know. It's all my fault. I can't believe myself. But this list is coming so late because of my number one rule. That being, I have to watch every movie that I wanted to in 2016 before releasing the list. And I know a lot of other reviewers start off by saying, I didn't see everything I wanted to, and they list off some movies that they think they would put on the list if they had saw it but didn't. I don't want to do that. I want to see everything I wanted to before making my list. This is a best of list, so I should be finding everything that I think is the best of that year. So I've done that, and now we're here. Rule number 2 for this list is that there is no limits to how many movies are on it. If I think that 69 movies are great in a particular year, then there will be 69 movies on that list. But all these rules have been met, and so let's just get into it. Number 17, Deepan. Deepan is a movie about refugees trying to come to America. No, wait, that's not right. Deepan is about refugees coming from Sri Lanka to France. 3 refugees that are forced together, not related, don't know each other, they're just put together to represent a family so that they can get into France. And when they get there, it's clear that the cultural barrier is something to overcome. And that's what Deepan does best. It's able to show the cultural barrier as a huge hurdle to overcome. You have to adapt to a completely new environment. You have to learn a new language. You have to adapt to the people around you. It's a huge hurdle, and this movie shows the struggle of overcoming that extremely well, and that's really the best part of this movie. Everything else is well done. The direction's well done. The characters are well written, but the reason it's so low on my list is because it's not exactly rewatchable. The movie is fairly surface level in that you don't really learn too much about specific events or specific people. You don't learn too much about backstory for a lot of people, so nothing really changes on a second or third watch. So while it's a great movie and it definitely deserves a spot on this list, it's great, but that's about it.
நீ ஒழுங்காக படிக்கணும், போய் ஃப்ரெஞ்சு கதைக்குவோம். மற்ற பிள்ளைகள் மாதிரி படித்து ஃப்ரெஞ்சு கதைக்குவோம். இல்லாட்டி எல்லாம் திருப்பி நீங்கள் போடுவாங்க. ஒரு உனக்கு ஊருக்கு திரும்பி போய் விருப்பமா? விருப்பமா? எனக்கும் விருப்பம் இல்லை. என்ன பேர்? என்ன பேர்? படிக்க முறையா? எலும்பு எலும்பு போ.
Coming in at number 16 is Jackie. Now, Jackie is getting a lot of attention for its central performance from Natalie Portman, and it was good. But I think the best part of this movie is definitely the technical aspect. This movie is so well done from a technical perspective that it's hard for me not to recommend it. While I didn't connect with it on an emotional level too much, and that's probably why it's so low on this list, I absolutely loved what they did with the costumes, the production design, and the camera work. The camera work and direction is the star of this movie. It's very close and personal and claustrophobic, and it's shot on 16mm film and at a 1.6:1 aspect ratio. So it's like a box, and it's all grainy. So it gives that rustic feeling while also being very personal. It's in this woman's space. You're really feeling like you're right there with her because you're so close at all times. And that is why Jackie succeeds for me. It's definitely worthy of this list.
You ready?
Of course. I love crowds.
You remember Governor Mrs. Connolly? Yes,
All right, number 15 is Alos, or Alice, or however you pronounce it. I have no idea. But Alos is a movie that like nobody saw, and that makes me better than you. Obviously, I can feel you typing it, so I'm just gonna say it. This movie was really, really fun to watch, and I was really shocked at that because the first hour or so of this movie is really serious and kind of depressing. It follows a introverted private investigator investigating some people, and then one day he loses his camcorder with all of these people's private information that he's recorded onto it, and he starts freaking out, obviously. And as we watch this movie, we realize that he's very, very introverted. He hardly ever leaves his apartment, and he can't really establish connections with people. But suddenly, that changes when he gets a phone call from the robber of his equipment, and it's a woman, and she starts to make him use his imagination and make him feel the world around him, but that simultaneously pushes himself further into himself. And that is why this movie is so good. It's like a mix between Synecdoche, New York and Her. It's a really fun and playful movie about relationships and how the modern world can be such a factor in having a relationship. So I really recommend this movie if you can find it. It's very well done. It's a fun movie that does a lot right, and it is beautifully shot, which is probably the best positive for this movie. I really enjoyed it. Check it out.
Der Bäcker bäckt Brot, der Fischer fischt, der Ermittler ermittelt.
Number 14 is I, Daniel Blake. Now this movie is a Irish movie? A UK movie? I'm not sure. But it's a movie about a man named Daniel Blake. And he recently got injured in a work accident that we don't get to see, and it's puts him on welfare, or at least it should. And the whole movie is following him trying to get this welfare and going through the process of getting it, and how he's stopped at every single possible point from getting this welfare that he is in need of to live. And that is what this movie is all about. It's about showing the real world and showing how just a simple thing can affect somebody's life so deeply, so on every level. And that's why I, Daniel Blake, is on this list. It is a really hard to watch movie at some points, but it is really fun. It's incredibly well done, and the performances and the camera work and almost everything just feels so real. And that is why this is on this list.
The lady's told you what's right. There's rules here, rules that we have to stick to, okay? It isn't against you, but you have a duty.
Listen, I'm not saying it's against
you
me.
have
All
a
I'm
duty
saying
to
is,
be here on time.
and I'm explaining to you why I wasn't here on time.
Do you know
but
what?
I got lost.
I understand, right? But what I gather now is the decision maker. The decision maker's going to be sending you a letter through the post. You're going to have to wait for that, and then you're going to...
My kids have got to start school tomorrow. I've got about 12 quid in my purse.
Do you know what?
All because you can't just calm down and listen to people when they talk.
Right,
You all
again,
have to do this.
Do you know what? I've
with
listened
your
to you.
rules.
You've created a scene. I think
I've created this. No, mate, I've created. If I was going to
building.
create a scene, you'd know about it.
You need
trust
to
me.
leave the building.
I'm sorry, look.
Okay, you need to. This is ridiculous.
leave the
What am I
Jesus
supposed
Christ!
to do?
Who's first in this queue?
I am.
Do you mind if this young lass signs on first?
No, you carry on.
There you go. Now you can go back to your desk and let her sign on and do the job that the taxpayer pays you for. This is a bloody disgrace.
Number 13 is Christine. Now there are a number of strengths to Christine, but the biggest is Rebecca Hall's performance. Her performance in this movie is sensational, and I don't know how it's not getting any buzz. It is a absolutely great performance, and I'm gonna kind of stop there because this is a true story, and unlike a lot of other true stories that are just a Wikipedia page on screen, lion. This movie does so much more, and I don't want it spoiled for anybody. The best way to experience it is to just go in and see it. Don't search anything, don't look at any trailers, just see it.
Sorry, can we just stop for a second, Jane? Jane,
Yeah?
stop. Can you get Gail? I thought she was meant to get some fresh flowers.
Oh, yeah, I told her to. It must have slipped her mind.
It slipped her mind? Well, I can't think about anything else, sorry. So you're gonna have to, someone get some fresh flowers.
I'm sorry, sir. We're just gonna a little bit. I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
All right, at number 12, we have Swiss Army Man. Swiss Army Man's already been talked about endlessly, so I'm just going to say it's worth it. Go see it. At number 11 is Hell or High Water. Now, I realize a lot of people are probably going to say that this deserves to be higher on my list, but I don't think so. The movie is still really well done, and it's really good, but it's not a great movie. It's not a movie that I'm going to want to rewatch for years to come. I'll put it in maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 years, and then just forget about it. It's a fun watch while you're watching it. It has great performances from Chris Pine and Ben Foster, and Jeff Bridges kind of just mutters his way through it and is kind of hilarious. But it's well done. Everything about it is well written. The characters come together full circle and are really fun to watch. Everyone has a nice arc. And the movie is really entertaining. So I would say go see it, and it's definitely worthy of number 11 on this list.
Put the gun on the counter. You trying to get us killed? I ain't stealing from some old man. We steal from one place. That's it. You're turning out to be a poor-ass criminal. Woo! See what the early bird gets? Maybe we should hit that bridge, Jake.
No, we ain't. We hit those banks first thing in the morning. When they're empty. It's the last time I care to be shot at. Gotta be smart. We're ways from being finished.
At number 10, we have Moonlight. Now, Moonlight is the highest rated movie of 2016 and one of the highest rated movies of all time. So why is it number 10 on my list? Well, because the first act of this movie is kind of hard to connect with. So the movie is told through 3 acts. It follows a child, a teen, and an adult version of our main character, Chiron, I think is his name. And the first act of this movie is the weakest for me. I didn't really connect with it. It started to feel a little cliche, and the camera work was a little bit hit and miss. This film is really, really great. It's about a black gay kid that's growing up in the hood. And I know that sounds like Oscar bait, because it pretty much is, but it does so much more than that, and that's why it deserves number 10 on this list.
Say your name, Blue.
At some point, you gotta decide for yourself who you gonna be. Can't let nobody make that decision for you.
At number 9 is The Wailing. This movie is no doubt the scariest movie of 2016. And that is saying something for me, who doesn't get scared by anything. And it did something that no other movie did as well. It tricked me. This is the most unpredictable movie I have seen in a long time. It's the most unpredictable movie of 2016, easily. And that unpredictability actually lends itself to the film's tension. It builds tension so masterfully. The director just knows what you're thinking at any specific moment, and he uses that against you. So that unpredictability makes you really scared for what's happening. And the movie is able to build that tension across 2.5 hours and keep things constantly evolving and interesting through the entire runtime. And that is why The Wailing is number 9 on this list. Now, number 8 is The Lobster. And I know a lot of people are probably gonna say, this is a 2015 movie, it's not 2016. But for me, it is a 2016. Just trust me on that. There are a lot of factors that come into play with when a movie is released, what date, what year. It's not the last movie on this list that is quote unquote 2015. So just keep that in mind going further in this list. But The Lobster is probably the most dry comedy I have ever seen. Not only is the dialogue the driest thing ever, but the shooting style is as well. It's just locked down on a tripod and shot just static. And so in this dryness comes a really great comedy, actually. I love dry humor, and this is just the driest of dry. It's like watching a desert tell jokes, and that's funny to me. I don't know why, but it's just funny to me. And it's probably the greatest performance from Colin Farrell in a long time. Definitely one of the greatest comedic performances from him, right up there with In Bruges. So definitely check The Lobster out. It's a lot of fun. It's very, very unique. It's one of the more unique movies that I've seen this year.
I understand this discussion is a little unpleasant for you, but it is my duty to prepare you psychologically for all possible outcomes. Now, have you thought of what animal you'd like to be if you end up alone?
Yes, a lobster.
Why a lobster?
Because lobsters live for over 100 years. Are blue-blooded, like aristocrats. And stay fertile all their lives. I also like the sea. Very much. I water ski and swim quite well since I was a teenager.
I must congratulate you. The first thing most people think of is a dog, which is why the world is full of dogs. Very few people choose an unusual animal, which is why they are endangered. A lobster is an excellent choice.
Number 7 is The Greasy Strangler. This movie is probably going to be the most controversial on this list. It's one of those films that is either I love it or I hate it kind of movies. And for me, obviously, I loved it. I thought this movie was so hysterical. It's just the most vile, repulsive, yet charming and witty movie I've seen in a long time. And I think all of that just plays so well together. It just goes hand in hand. The gruesome, disgusting things that happen really work with the just innocent and dumb main characters. And that is why this movie feels like a love letter to B movies. Now, if you're not a fan of excessive nudity or cursing, then this is not your movie because it has a lot of both. If you don't care, then you'll probably get a kick out of this movie like I did.
I'm making these bacon rolls real greasy, Dad.
Bullshit, artist.
Am not.
Bullshit. You make this the greasiest feast since that goose you cooked on Christmas.
Done and done, Dad.
Number 6 is Tickled. Now, Tickled is the only documentary on this list, spoiler alert, but it is the most deserving, for sure. It is the best documentary I saw in 2016. It's about competitive endurance tickling. That's real. As the movie starts to really show the seedy underbelly of the competitive endurance tickling world, it's clear that what's happening underneath is really, really sketchy. Everything that you see, it just starts to devolve slowly, and the movie keeps up that pace, the relentless pace, and is constantly engaging because of how it reveals its information. And things just start slowly getting worse and worse and worse. It's a perfect example of tumbling down the rabbit hole in the most realistic way possible.
As the day wraps up, I want to give Kevin one last chance to talk about what's going on. With pending lawsuits, I'm cautious and don't want to storm into the studio.
I haven't locked the door.
I think we go. All right. Okay, let's go.
All right, number 5 is La La Land. Here we have another movie that's being called the best of the year, and a lot of people are probably going to say it deserves to be a lot higher, but it's definitely deserving of number 5. La La Land is one of the most genuine movies I have seen in a while. The director, Damien Chazelle, really put in a lot of thought and effort and care into this movie, and it's clear when you watch it how much he loves what he does. And that is why La La Land is such an interesting experience, because it's all about the director, but not. He's saying that I made it, I did it, I followed my passion, and I made it. And if you follow your passion, that you can make it too. But sometimes things happen and you have to leave some people behind. And that's okay, it's perfectly human. And that is what La La Land does so well, and that is why it's number 5 on this list. Number 4 on this list is Arrival. Arrival may not be as good as Independence Day 2, Resurrection, the second one, and that's because of the lack of explosions. But Arrival is one of the smartest alien movies I've seen in my entire life. What it does with its score and its characters and its shooting style is so unique and interesting that it was a gripping movie despite being about language and communication. But Arrival is never boring, and it's endlessly rewatchable because of its reveal at the end and because of what it says about humans and human nature and communication and language. So it's definitely worth watching. Go check it out if you haven't, but I think almost everyone has already, so.
Kangaroo.
What is that?
In 1770, Captain James Cook's ship ran aground off the coast of Australia, and he led a party into the country, and they met the Aboriginal people. One of the sailors pointed at the animals that hop around and put their babies in their pouch, and he asked what they were, and the Aborigines said, kangaroo. It wasn't until later that they learned that kangaroo means, I don't understand.
I can sell that for now.
Yeah.
And remember what happened to the Aborigines? A more advanced race nearly wiped them out.
It's a good story.
Thanks. It's not true.
Number 3, Nocturnal Animals. I love this movie, and it's another one like The Greasy Strangler that you either love or you don't. And for me, I loved it. I loved what it did with its narrative. There are 3 different narratives in this movie. Mainly, the movie is about Amy Adams, who is not really happy with her life. Her husband isn't the most faithful, and her art isn't really what she wants it to be. And then suddenly she gets a transcript from her ex-husband of his new book, and he says, I want you to read it first. And so she starts reading the book, and we get to see what she's reading and how it's affecting her and how she's flashing back to her past with this person. And the story that it tells between Jake Gyllenhaal, Amy Adams, and this book is so compelling to watch. This triangle that happens is probably the most dynamic, interesting storytelling I've seen all year. It is endlessly complex with all of its subtleties and all its parallels to reality that it is rewatchable almost every time. You catch something new almost every time. And it's so well written, it's so well directed, and it is one of the best movies of the year. Check it out.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so let's exchange information.
Information?
Yeah.
Let's exchange information.
All right, get out of the glove compartments.
Okay, I'm a Gemini. My favorite color's petal pink. I like long walks and kittens.
Now we've come down to it. The top 1 and top 2 movies of my list. This one was really difficult for me, actually. These two flip-flopped around all year, but I think I finally have it. Number 2 on my list, The Handmaiden. I made a video earlier this year that called it the best movie of 2016, and it really did flip-flop with my number 1 all the time, and I still can categorize it as the best movie of 2016. But I also categorize it as the second best. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Take these positions with a grain of salt, but The Handmaiden is my number 2 on this list. The way it's told is incredibly unique and interesting and complex, but its main story is a love triangle between 3 people and then a bad guy that wants to break them up. It's pretty generic story, but the way it's told is what makes it more. The way it's told is what makes this movie really elevate above a lot of other films, and the direction from Chan-wook Park is masterful. Absolutely masterful. So if you are interested in this kind of a movie, or you just want to see a master of his craft at work, check out The Handmaiden.
여기 오는 게 아니었는데.
タマコ、水彩画の準備してきたよな。
もちろんでございます、旦那様。水彩画の絵のことを水彩画の。
油絵の具に描いてくれないか。こんな天気の日には油絵か。持ってこいだ。
My number 1 movie of 2016 is Son of Saul. Holy crap, was this movie hard to watch. What Son of Saul does so well is that it doesn't ever make light of this event. It never makes light of the Holocaust. It's shot almost like Jackie, but it's a 1-to-1 aspect ratio, so it's a perfect square. And it's so trained, so close on our main character. It never leaves his side. So everything that happens in this camp is in the background. It's blurred. But it's there, and it's really disturbing, actually. There's a lot of amazing one-takes that go on for 4 or 5 minutes of just vile things happening that you have to kind of watch in the background as our character lives through it. And that's why Son of Saul is the best movie on this list, and one of the hardest to watch movies on this list for sure. But that's it. That is the end of 2016 for me. The last couple weeks have been nothing but binge watching all the movies I didn't get to watch. I think I watched something like 30 movies in the last couple of weeks to get ready for this list, so I'm a little burned out on 2016. I'm happy to be done, but I'm also happy to bring this list to you. Even if there's only one movie on this list that you end up watching and only one movie on this list that you end up liking, then I think I did my job. I think the reason I made this list is to promote movies to people that may not have seen them before. So if you found something on this list that you never have seen before or have never heard of before, leave a comment down below, tell me what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.